Hello, John Talley here with Partzilla.com. Today we're going to be doing some work on a 2018 Honda Grom. This one is very special because when we're done hopping this thing up and making it handle and ride better, we're actually going to give it away. So if you would, check the link in the description below. It's going to carry you to a landing page. That's where you can enter to win. Now, take heart. If the contest is already over, why don't you do us a favor and go ahead and tell us what machine you'd like to see us hop up and give away next time. Now, today, this is what we need to get rid of. So let's step over to the table and look at the model that I chose to take care of this eyesore. The Fender Eliminator kit that I chose is one from Yoshimura. It is a really high quality unit and it should be very easy to install. They even included a light for your tag. And we're going to install this with just basic hand tools. And I'll actually call out whatever size that I'm using so to make it easier for you to get this done. So now that I got everything laid out, let's go over there, pull it apart, and get this installed. So let's start by getting the seat out of the way. Now, here's the game plan. The 4 bolts that we're after are here, 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 and here. They're all 12 millimeter. But before we remove those, we want to disconnect the sub harness that's going to the rear fender. So just follow it to its connection point right here. You can actually lift it up far enough to disconnect it. We'll just feed it back, taking notice of how it was routed in any wire holders. So we want to put it back from whence it came. So now that it's disconnected, we can go ahead and get those 4 bolts out of the way, and then the whole back end will release. I think there's one little clip up top you have to get past, but then it'll drop down. And that clip I refer to is right here, dead center. I'm just going to push it back just a tick. There we go. And she's free. It already looks better. So what we're going to do next is go ahead and take off this lower pan. That's going to give us access to the bolts and the wiring that are down below, because we're actually going to reuse these temporarily, because later in another video we're going to replace the turn signals front and back as well as the rear view mirrors. Right now I'm going to go ahead and reuse them so you know how to put it back together. And one more here. There we go. Now that we have access, it's really easy to get to the wiring. Now keep in mind which color wires go where as far as your right and your left. Let's keep up with that orange one. That needs to be on our left. Next, we just need to get down to these 2 14 millimeter bolts that are holding on our turn signals. So the way to break this one loose is to actually pass your wires up under this metal hoop. Go and run it through your wrench. Then get it in there and get it loose. Now we're going to cut this a couple inches from the end. So that should be more than enough to make a connection to the new light. Now, with all that out of the way, we can actually start putting this back together. And the way we're going to approach this is go ahead and build up the entire assembly before we go install it. So you'll have the tag bracket that goes here, but it's also integrated in with the 2 side pieces that hold your left and rear turn signals. So once we get all of that put together, then it'll just slide up here, get bolted into place, and then we can make our electrical connections. We start with the rear tail light, and you want to make sure that you actually feed it through this hole in the right orientation, because this is cut so close it doesn't want to let you turn it. So we want to make sure that it goes in the right orientation. Now we're going to attach it with these 2 4 millimeter thread hex bolts, and I believe they actually have a 2.5 millimeter hex that you're going to need to drive it in there. You'll notice each and every piece on this kit has a really good fit and finish to it. I mean, most of your cheaper kits, they just have plastic that you probably screw it into. No, not this one. They actually have brass threads embedded in the light itself. It's a really nice kit. All right, next, let's go ahead and get together our turn signal brackets as well as our tag bracket. And we don't have the tag yet, but we'll install it later. So we're going to put it together just with the bracket for the time being, or that outer trim plate, if you will. And you want to orient it like this. So let's go ahead and get that bottom half on. And then we'll concentrate on the top. Then go for the other side. Let's go ahead and tighten these down. This is just a 4mm with a 10mm nut. Now, I am actually going to install the OEM equipment back onto this, but like I said, we're going to replace these at a later date. But to do this, if you are going to reuse your stock ones, take this plate off. And if you remember a little while ago, I said we wanted the left side to be the orange. So this is going to be our right. And actually, this plate is notched out for the stock setup. Now, before we actually mount this to the machine, let's go and route our wires up in the general direction as we did with our tail light. Now it's ready to go. There is one small adjustment that we need to make so we can get this bracket to go up in there. The rear brake light needs to get unbolted and just pushed out a little bit where we have enough clearance to get this edge up behind it. A couple of 10mm, we don't have to disconnect it, we're just going to take it off its mount just by a little bit. Feed these wires up through the center. And then we're going to take these two tabs and they'll actually go to the bottom of the seat pan, to these two slots. As you pull the wires up through, just lean the tail light up out of the way, and up she goes. Next, we take our 5mm head bolts and run them up from the bottom and get our nuts on the other side. We'll go ahead and get all four in place and just get them in there finger tight. Then we'll go back and tighten them down. So I'm going to warn you right here, if you drop this bolt, there's a chance that it'll go inside the frame. Not that I've ever done that before. Everybody's in place. Let's go ahead and get them tightened down. And with all that in place, put your 10mm back for the brake light, and then all we have left after that is just the electrical. Get our sub harness back in. No harm in reconnecting it as long as you don't turn the key back on. So the turn signals are really simple. Just plug them back in. It's all color to color. Keep in mind that the green actually has 2 points, one for either side. Green to green, blue to blue. Do make sure they snap in all the way when you're pushing them in. Another green to green, then orange to orange. Now when we're done, we'll tuck this all up under this edge over here, put a couple of zip ties to hold it in place. Now our tag light. We want to cut back the sheathing that's actually protecting it. When you do this, try not to nick the wires because that will give corrosion a place to go in, and we don't want that. We just want to cut that outer casing. There we go, like that. See, no nicks. Let's strip our wires back. A little over 1/4 inch will be enough. Next, let's go ahead and feed the wire all the way through the connector. Then we're actually going to twist these together like that. Bring over our connector. You get that center section right in the middle of that connection and just put a light crimp on it, like that. Same thing for the other wire. So when you make this crimp, that's really not connecting it yet. That's just getting it in contact. Because what we're going to do next is heat it up, and that's actually going to fuse the two wires together. See the solder melt in there? Starting to go into the individual strands of the wire. Yeah, they're soldered together now. Cool little connectors that they sent with this. Now we just have a little bit of housekeeping to do. We'll put all those connections up under this cover. Then we're just going to route it over to go under this edge like so. I doubt that's going to fly anywhere, but just for the heck of it, let's pull it out just a little bit and get one zip tie around it under the existing harness. Now get tucked back up under there. So line up our catch. Well, guess what, guys? This one is complete. Well, listen, if you need these or any other parts for your machine, why don't you come see us at Partzilla.com and we can get you taken care of. Hey, you like what you're seeing? Why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button? That way you can keep up with whatever I'm working on next. We just want to say thanks for shopping here with us at Partzilla, and we will see you in the next video. Y'all have a great day.